2024. Will the city call the roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Defoe.
Here.
Mr. Friedman.
Here.
Mr. Rogers.
Here.
Ms. Libet.
Here.
Mr. Jenkins.
Present.
Mr. Havas. Madam Chair, you have a quorum to conduct business.
Thank you. Are there any communications?
None at this time.
Okay, thank you. So we will move into our public hearing. I think many of you have joined us before, but let me just briefly describe how we conduct business. The city will call the case by the case number, read a brief description of the case. We then ask the appellant to step to the microphone and explain to the board what you're asking for and why. There's also a sign-in sheet there if you'll sign in with your name and address. And then the city will read a findings of fact. We'll ask you to agree with those facts or add any other facts at that time. Then we'll receive the recommendation from the city. Then we'll open public comment. So if you're here to speak on a case, that would be your opportunity to step forward to the microphone. Again, state your name and address for the record and present your comments to the board on that case. Then we will turn it over to the board to discuss. If the appellant would just stay, kind of near the front row, that'd be great, so in case we have any questions for you. And that is basically how we operate. So, will the city call the first case, please?
Case 24-06. The appellant, Lanny Cowden, representing the owner, T-12 Office Owner LLC, is requesting the following from the board. A variance for one wall sign not facing a major thoroughfare, 0 permitted, 1 proposed. A variance for one additional auxiliary sign, menu board, 1 permitted, 2 proposed. A variance for 2 auxiliary signs visible from the public street, 0 permitted, 2 proposed. The property is located on the west side of Telegraph Road between West 12 Mile Road and Farmbrook Road at 0 Telegraph Road, Sidwell Parcel 2408451-013, zoned EROM. Education Research Office Limited. This appeal is to Section 8.60, subsections 2A and I. The Section 8.62 D, I, and III. Article 11, Chapter 99 of the Southfield City Code, more commonly known as the sign ordinance.
Thank you. Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening. Good evening.
If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, that is Laney Cowden. Address is 3333 Warrenville Road, Suite 200 in Lisle, Illinois.
Great, thank you.
It's a new
And if you
one.
could pull the microphone down just a little bit closer to you, I think that would help us to hear you. Thank you.
Is that better?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I know I had trouble last time.
And if you could explain to the board what you're asking for and
Sure.
why, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the first item bringing us here today was the additional wall sign to face the parking lot above our main entry. That's a typical identification zone that we like to propose on these buildings, showing patrons where the main entry is going to be, just by kind of doning that 6-foot tall lockup right above our entryway, which will be centered right between that 10-foot and that 23-foot 3-inch peak at the building, so it will be well above head. It'll work for viewing from further distances, because we are taking into consideration that we do technically have a secondary entry off of 12 Mile along the water tower. There's a road that goes from 12 Mile to the southwest corner of the existing office tower development. So we do see the likelihood of getting some patrons coming in that way, and that would be the facade side, our main entry that would face towards that direction. That would give visibility if patrons are coming from 12 Mile up behind and south of the existing tower building. Along with that, we know we're only technically allowed a sign on a street frontage facade. This sign would not be visible. So trying to play that into a give and a take, that from the street frontage, we're still only proposing our one sign, but this secondary sign would kind of work towards that secondary access point and not be visible from Telegraph. The second item that brought us in today is the additional menu board request. We are aware that only one's permitted and that we're proposing 2. We're hoping to keep the two-stack system to, one, help with the longer stacking that we're hoping to keep on this property, two, keep it in line with holding all of the existing stacking that we're anticipating on our site so it does not bleed onto the surrounding developments or onto Telegraph Road itself, along with having that bypass lane that goes around the entire building right there. It did shorten our stacking capability. So we're hoping that by having that second menu board, it keeps our stacking at a maximum while keeping it all on the same site. And then the third item that brought us in is to allow both of those menu boards to be visible from Telegraph Road. Fall in line with the same responses to the need for a second drive-through menu board, but we also wanted to make note that based on our current proposed landscaping that we'll be continuing with, we do have vegetation along Telegraph Road that will be anywhere between 2 and 3 feet tall when it's in maturity, and we plan to actually plant while they're in maturity or close to maturity. So from the start of construction and opening, that vegetation should be between 2 and 3 feet tall. We also want to make note that both menu boards will be further than 50 foot 9 inches from our property line and more than 72 foot 10 inches from the curb itself at Telegraph. So we are setting those back fairly far from the street. Those are digital menu boards, but we do not have any plan to have any strobing effects, no flashing lights coming off of them, and with our 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. operating hours, those boards will be turned off after closing.
Okay, thank you very much. Will the city read the findings of fact, please?
Yes, ma'am. Findings of fact, ZBA case 24-06. The appellant Lanny Cowden, representing the owner T12 Office Owner LLC, is requesting the following from the board: a variance for one wall sign not facing a major thoroughfare, 0 permitted, 1 proposed. A variance for one additional auxiliary sign menu board, 1 permitted, 2 proposed. A variance for 2 auxiliary signs visible from a public street, 0 permitted, 2 proposed. Property is located on the west side of Telegraph Road between West 12 Mile and Farmbrook Road at 0 Telegraph Road, Sidwell parcel 2408451-013, zoned EROM, Educational Research Office Limited. This appeal is to sections 8.60 2AI and sections 8.602 DI III. Article 11, Chapter 99 of the Southfield City Code, more commonly known as the sign ordinance. Properties to the north are zoned EROM, Educational Research Office Limited, and occupied by an office building. The properties to the south are zoned B3, General Business, and is occupied by a fast food restaurant. Properties to the west are zoned RM, Multiple Family Residential, and are occupied by apartments. Properties to the east across Telegraph are zoned B3, Business, and occupied by an auto dealership. The subject property is zoned B3, General Business, and is proposing a new 2,467 square foot, 1-story fast food restaurant with a drive-up pass-through window. The site has 3 vehicular entrance exits along Telegraph Road and 1 vehicular entrance exit along West 12 Mile Road. The appellant is requesting 1 36 square foot wall sign not facing a major thoroughfare on the west side facing the parking lot, 1 proposed, 0 allowed, 1 additional auxiliary menu board, 1 permitted, 2 proposed, and 2 auxiliary signs visible from a public street, 0 permitted, 2 proposed.
Great, thank you. Do you agree with those facts?
I do.
Okay, are there any other facts you'd like to add at this time?
No.
Okay, thank you. Will the city read the recommendation, please?
The staff recommendation is favorable consideration for the waiver requesting 1 additional wall sign not facing a major thoroughfare, 0 allowed, 2 proposed, 1 additional auxiliary sign menu board, 1 permitted, 2 proposed, and 2 auxiliary signs visible from a public street, 0 permitted, 2 proposed. This recommendation is based on the following. Due to the unique condition of the property, the strict application and regulation would result in the practical difficulties to or undue hardship upon the owners of such properties. The proposed signs are inconsistent with the spirit and intent of the sign ordinance and the regulation which apply to the zoning district. The proposed signs are in keeping with the character of the surrounding area and would not have an adverse or detrimental effect on adjacent or surrounding properties. The proposed signs will not interfere with or be objectionable from the standpoint of traffic safety.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we open public comment?
No, thank you.
Okay, just stay near the front. We will now open public comment on this case. If you are here to speak on this case, this would be your opportunity to step forward. Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment and turn it over to the board. Mr. Rogers?
I have no issues with these requests.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Libet?
I have no issues as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Friedman?
I have no issues.
And Mr. Jenkins?
I recommend.
Okay, thank you. I agree with my colleagues. I think we have seen this in new construction and in some renovations of fast food restaurants around the city. This is just kind of some of the necessary new desires as far as signage goes in relation to fast food restaurants now. So, Mr. Rogers, will you make a motion for us?
Sure. In regards to ZBA case 24-06, the appellant Lanny Cowden, representing the owner T12 Office Owner LLC, is requesting the following from the board. 1, a variance for 1 wall signs not facing a major thoroughfare, 0 permitted, 1 proposed. 2, a variance for 1 additional auxiliary sign menu board, 1 permitted, 2 proposed. And 3, a variance for 2 auxiliary sign visible from a public street, 0 permitted and 2 proposed. Property is located at 0 Telegraph Road, Sidwell parcel 24-08451-013, zoned ERO-M, Education Research Office Limited. I make a motion to approve the waiver is requesting 1 additional wall signs not facing a major thoroughfare, 0 allowed, 2 proposed, 1 additional auxiliary sign menu board, 1 permitted, 2 proposed, and 2 auxiliary sign visible from a public street, 0 permitted, 2 proposed. I make this motion based on the following. Due to the unique conditions of the property, the strict application of the regulations would result in practical difficulties to or undue hardship upon the owners of such property. The proposed signs are consistent with the spirit and intent of the sign ordinance and the regulations which apply to the zoning district. The proposed signs are in keeping with the character of the surrounding area and would not have an adverse or detrimental effect on adjacent or surrounding properties. And the proposed signs will not interfere with or be objectionable from the standpoint of traffic safety.
Great, thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, your request is granted. Please continue to work with the city on your permits. Okay, thank you. Will the city call the next case, please?
Case 24-11, the appellant Evan Goike, sign fabricator representing the owner 12 Northwest LLC, is requesting the following waiver from the board. A variance for a garden ground sign in a location zoned B1, 0 permitted, 1 proposed. And a 6-foot high garden ground sign, 5-foot permitted, 6-foot proposed. The property is located on the south side of Northwestern Highway between Franklin Road and Beck Road at 28625 Northwestern Highway, Sidwell parcel 2418276-041, zoned B1, neighborhood business. This appeal is to the Article 9, Section 8.57, Chapter 99, the Southfield City Code, more commonly known as the sign ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Is the appellant here?
Good evening,
Hi
everyone.
there. If you could just state your name and address for the record, please, and
My
then
name-
explain to us what you're looking for.
My name is Evan Goike. I work for Sign Fabricators at 43984 North Groesbeck Highway, Clinton Township, Michigan, 48036.
Okay, thank you. And if you could explain to us what you are asking the board for and why, please.
I'm here today to ask for the request of a variance to allow a second monument sign at this property. There's one existing right now on Northwestern Highway. The one that we are proposing is identical, except for the fact that this one is non-illuminated, and it is also single-sided. Right now, there's a lack of any wayfinding or any display of the tenants at this property, especially for anyone coming southbound on Franklin. So this sign would help solve that issue.
Okay, thank you. Will the city read the findings of fact, please?
Yes, ma'am. Findings of fact for ZBA case 24-11, the appellant Evan Goike, sign fabricators representing the owner 12 NW LLC, requesting the following waivers from the board. A variance for a garden ground sign in a location zoned B1, 0 permitted, 1 proposed. A 6-foot-high garden ground sign, 5 foot permitted, 6 foot proposed. The property is located on the south side of Northwestern Highway between Franklin Road and Beck Road at 28625 Northwestern Highway, Sidwell parcel 2418276-041, zoned B1 neighborhood business. This appeal is to Article 9, Section 8.57, Chapter 99 of the Southfield City Code, more commonly known as the sign ordinance. To the north across Northwestern Highway, the property is zoned B3, general business occupied by a bank. To the east, the properties are zoned B1, neighborhood business occupied by a strip mall. To the south, the property is zoned OS, office services, and occupied by offices. The west across Franklin Road, the property is zoned RT, attached single-family residential, and is occupied by apartments. The subject property is zoned B1, general business, and is a 31,647 square foot, 2-story multi-tenant office building built in 1988. The site has 1 entrance and exit along Northwestern Highway and 1 entrance exit along Franklin Road. A survey of signs at the site reveals the following signs. 1 6-foot garden ground sign along the Northwestern Highway entrance that was approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals, case ZBA 90-28. The appellant proposes to install a 6-foot-high garden ground sign along the Franklin Road entrance, 1 proposed, 0 allowed.
Okay, thank you. Do you agree with those facts?
Yes,
Okay, do you have any other facts you'd like to add at this time?
I believe that's what it is. That's all for now.
Okay, thank you. Will the city read the staff recommendation, please?
Staff recommendation for favorable consideration for 1 additional 6-foot garden ground sign along the Franklin Road entrance with the following conditions. The appellant secures the required permits from the building department, and approvals from the planning department for all landscaping requirements. This recommendation is based on the following. Due to the unique layout and size of the property on which the additional 6-foot ground sign is proposed, and the strict application of the regulations would result in practical difficulties and undue hardship upon the owner of the property. The proposed ground sign is consistent with the spirit and intent of the sign ordinance, that the proposed ground sign is in keeping with the character of the surrounding area and would not have an adverse or detrimental effect upon adjacent or surrounding properties. The proposed garden ground sign would not interfere with or be objectionable from the standpoint of traffic or pedestrian safety.
Okay, thank you. Do you have anything else you'd like to add before we open public comment?
I do not.
Okay, so we will now open public comment on this case. If you are here to speak on this case, now would be your opportunity to come forward and present the board with your comments. Okay, seeing none, we will close public comment and turn it over to the board. Mr. White? Mr. Friedman?
I have no issues with it. Seems necessary, like the other one that the zoning board approved years ago.
Okay. Mr. Jenkins?
I'm favorable of it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rogers?
Having pulled off of Franklin Road into that parking lot, I think where they're trying to propose to locate it is a good location, and I think it's needed.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Libet?
Seems fine.
Okay, thank you. I do have just one question. Now, isn't this the same sign that we approved within the last few months for a number of tenants? on
That
this
was
one?
for a different
It
location.
was a different location,
Yeah,
okay.
but it's the same sign,
It's
same
the same
company,
style of
same
sign or
design.
something, okay.
Correct.
So I guess I recall in the ordinance that you were only allowed 3 tenant names without a request, without an appeal. So this presents 6.
Correct.
So are we approving this sign and giving them 6?
That's a question for the applicant.
Okay, so I guess to be clear, the ordinance only allows 3 tenants to be listed on the sign. Part of this variance request is not asking for the 6 as is designed.
Correct. I believe that the conversation at the last, when it came down to the last sign, was the size of the tenant panels that were, and then ultimately it was allowed for the more than 3, as long as we weren't exceeding a over-the-top size.
Yeah.
I'll double check everything.
Okay, I
but-
think the last case was actually asking for 6 panels. So we were approving 6 or 9 or however many there was. There's no request in this ordinance for having more than 3. So you would
Okay.
be restricted to only having 3 without coming back to the board.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll bring that up with my client.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did I state anything incorrectly?
That's not what's on the drawing.
That's correct, but I'm not sure how many they were requesting in the beginning, because of when we did the findings of fact, that information wasn't available.
Okay.
They were still trying to decide.
Could he request right now the amount of?
Or we could put it in our motion to
Yeah,
say
could
that
he
we
orally
allow.
request, however
Could-
many?
Yeah, I
he-
guess my concern is what's being presented is not necessarily what's being approved.
Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes.
Can we request a amendment to the legal notice and the findings of fact, and we can add the 6 signs now, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been legally noticed, and there's nobody here with concerns about it. So, I mean, I'm inclined to, rather than require them to bring another case, since that's what the design that's featured here is showing 6, and that would not be allowed.
It is showing 6.
Right, but that's not allowed because we're not approving a variance for 6.
Okay.
They came in last time for 6.
For 6,
We said,
Yes.
okay, as long as they were the
they
same.
were readable. Yeah, be careful with logos was the
So I would
conversation.
think that we'd have to do the same.
Yeah.
Consistent thing.
Yeah. So, yeah, so I think that needs to be a third part of this variance request. So, yes, sir.
I have a question. What would be the difference between 6 versus 3?
So 3 is allowed in the ordinance,
Yeah,
and you
those-
don't have to ask for a variance. But if they want to put up a sign that looks like this, they'd have to come back to the board, pay another $400 for us to say it's okay to do 6.
I'm a question, what would your objection with 6 versus 3 anyway?
I mean, well, I
The
don't think
size.
anybody has an
I don't think
objection.
any of us have an objection.
Yeah, I don't think we have an objection. It's
Okay,
just
okay.
that,
But write it into the
We wanna-
record, so you
yeah.
don't have to come back.
If he orally requested and we add it to our motion, is there an issue with the legal notice? Do not
I
having
mean, the
that
notice is
detail?
on a sign on the property, so
Right.
I would think,
Well, it was presented with 6, so it's
Yeah.
not a change of the notice. We're just,
Yeah.
we're clarifying.
would you,
Would you request that we also allow 6 tenants?
Yeah, I think
On
that's
the
where I was
signs.
going right now. Let's get this past us.
Yeah, that is correct. We would try to move forward with that request.
okay. So it's basically allowing a variance of 3 additional tenant signs. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Everybody made their comments, right? Okay, we're ready for a motion. Okay. Who would like to make, would you like to make it? Okay, thank you.
The appellant Evan Goike, sign fabricators representing the owner 12 NW LLC is requesting the following waivers from the board. A variance for a garden ground sign in a location zone B1, 0 permitted, 1 proposed. A 6-foot high garden ground sign, 5 foot permitted, 6 feet proposed. And a variance to allow 6 tenants rather than 3 on the sign. I move that the property is located on the south side of Northwestern Highway between Franklin Road and Beck Road at 28625 Northwestern Highway, symbol parcel 2418276-041. I move that we approve the additional 6-foot garden ground sign along the Franklin Road entrance and allow for a 6-foot sign that has 6 tenant panels. I make this motion based on the fact that the unique layout size of the property would result in undue hardship if the sign is not allowed, and that the proposed ground sign is consistent with the spirit and intent of the sign ordinance, and the proposed sign will not interfere with or be objectionable from the standpoint of traffic and pedestrian safety.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, your request is granted. Continue to work with the city on your permits and any other requirements.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so that closes our public hearing, and looks like we do have one set of minutes to approve from May 7th. Does anyone have any changes or corrections?
They look terrific.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes for May 7th?
So move.
Thank
Second.
you, thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. And it looks like we've already canceled our June 18th meeting. We have a request to cancel our July 2nd meeting due to lack of cases. So can I have a motion to cancel July 2nd?
So moved.
Can I have-
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and it looks like we do have 2 cases for July 16th. So put that date on your calendar as our next meeting. And then, do we have any miscellaneous from anyone? No? Okay, seeing none. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So move.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We're adjourned.